The galaxy had always known humans were different. In countless star systems, the ancient empires whispered about them. They were young, fragile, and untested. Many believed humans were weak, not ready to survive in the endless void of space. Yet for reasons no one could fully explain, humans carried a spark inside them, a stubborn, burning will that refused to bend or break. That spark frightened others more than their weapons ever could. Among the whispers, one name began to spread like wildfire: the Thunder Soul Warship. Some said it was just a myth, a story told to frighten enemies and boost human morale. Others insisted it was real, built in secret after the savage attack on a remote human colony. The survivors had returned with stories of courage, of resistance against impossible odds, and of a ship that struck faster and harder than anything they had seen. It was said that the Thunder Soul was not just a ship. It was a storm given form, powered by human anger, human hope, and human pride. In the Kargath Dominion, one of the largest and most ruthless empires in the galaxy, the rumors were heard but dismissed. The Kargath had fought countless species, conquered worlds, and crushed rebellions. Their fleets were vast, their weapons powerful, their fleets commanded by generals who had never failed. And yet in the corridors of the Dominion's war command, there were murmurs, whispers of a force that could strike with the fury of 1,000 suns. Some officers laughed at the idea. Others, more cautious, wondered if humanity was indeed hiding something dangerous. General Rakor, the commander of the Dominion's approaching fleet, was among the skeptics. He had seen countless wars, crushed dozens of civilizations, and never feared an enemy. Yet the stories of the Thunder Soul tugged at the corner of his mind. He shook the thought away. "Weaklings," he said to his aides. "This is nothing. Humans are small. They have no chance against us. One strike, and they will kneel." But humans were not weak. Humans never kneeled. That was something no one in the Dominion seemed to understand. They did not see the countless centuries of struggle humans had survived, the wars fought on their home world, the planet-wide catastrophes, the countless times they had faced extinction and survived. Each loss had taught humans something no empire could crush: the value of survival, the strength of unity, and the unbreakable will to fight back. On a distant Terran outpost, engineers worked tirelessly in silence. Shipyards buzzed with activity day and night. They were building something unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was massive, faster than any known ship, and armed with weapons that seemed impossible. But beyond its physical power, it carried the human spirit itself. Inside its hull, every decision, every calculation, every bolt and beam was infused with the resolve of a people who had endured the unimaginable and refused to die. Captain Alara, one of humanity's most respected leaders, walked through the corridors of the ship. She touched the hull, feeling the vibrations of energy flowing through it. The crew around her moved with quiet precision, their faces calm, yet eyes burning with a silent promise. This was no ordinary ship. This was the first real defense of humanity, and it carried the weight of every fallen colony, every lost friend, and every broken home. The Thunder Soul was not built to conquer. It was built to survive, to protect, to strike when the time came, with the full force of human will behind it. Back in the Dominion, fleets moved toward Terran space confident, arrogant, and completely unaware. They believed they were heading into an easy conquest. But the galaxy had changed. Whether they knew it or not, a storm was coming, and its name was Thunder Soul, and soon, the Kargath Dominion would learn a terrifying truth. Crossing humans was not just dangerous, it was pure madness. Before the Kargath Dominion crossed the borders of Terran space, humans sent their warnings. They were not loud, arrogant threats. They were clear, calm, and final. "Do not come closer. We will not stop once we begin." The message echoed across the Dominion's communication channels, but it was met with laughter. The Kargath leaders could not imagine a young species like humans posing any real threat. They had conquered thousands of worlds, destroyed countless fleets, and yet they feared nothing. Why would they fear this small, defiant species? Ambassadors tried to explain. They pleaded with patience and reason, telling the Dominion of the humans' resilience, their tenacity, and the hidden power they had begun to assemble in secret. They described the Thunder Soul warship, not as a weapon of vengeance, but as a shield for humanity's survival. But the Kargath dismissed it all. Their arrogance blinded them. Weaklings, General Rockor sneered, pacing in his command hall. They cannot even maintain one world, and yet they dare to threaten an empire? Their courage is amusing. Across Terran space, people watched the Dominion fleets moving closer. Families on distant colonies whispered prayers. Scientists and engineers continued their work in the shipyards, knowing the moment was near. Captain Alara stood on the observation deck of the Thunder Soul warship, staring at the stars. Her calm eyes betrayed nothing, but inside a storm of memories raged. She thought of every human who had died in previous attacks, every colony wiped out by greedy empires. She remembered the children who had never seen their homes again, the parents who had screamed in despair, and the brave few who had refused to surrender. Those memories were heavy, but they were also fuel. They reminded her and her crew why the Thunder Soul had been built, not to conquer, not to boast, but to defend. To show the galaxy that humans, once pushed too far, could unleash a force no one could ignore. The Dominion fleet finally crossed the Terran border. Their warships filled the void, glowing with deadly energy. Their sensors scanned the systems, expecting to find scattered, disorganized human forces. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They found neither. In the darkness of space, the Thunder Soul warship waited. Cloaked by advanced Terran technology, it had hidden itself from the Dominion sensors. Its crew moved silently through its corridors, readying every system. There was no panic, no hesitation, only quiet determination. Every weapon was checked, every energy field reinforced, every strategy analyzed. The humans were ready, and they were calm. Captain Ilara addressed her crew. Today we show them who we are. Today we make them understand that no empire, no matter how powerful, can break humanity's will. We do not fight for glory. We fight for every life they would take, for every home they would destroy, for every voice that would be silenced. The crew listened, their hearts steady and resolute. They understood that this fight was not just for survival. It was a statement to the galaxy. Humans could endure, humans could resist, and humans would never bow. Meanwhile, the Dominion fleet advanced with confidence. Their warships bristled with weapons, and their commanders whispered among themselves, mocking the humans' warnings. They are weak. They cannot fight an empire. What is one planet against our might? They did not know that under the silent, starlit sky, the first strike of the Thunder Soul was already prepared. They did not understand the power of humans when pushed to the edge. And most importantly, they did not realize that crossing humans was no longer just dangerous. It was madness. As the fleets closed in, the galaxy held its breath. The humans waited, calm, patient, and ready. And in the heart of the Thunder Soul, Warship, the crew prepared for the moment that would change everything. The Terran void was silent, almost peaceful, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. But beneath that calm, a storm waited. The Thunder Soul warship lay in shadow, its massive hull shimmering faintly, like lightning trapped in steel. It had been built for this moment, not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. And now, the moment had come. Captain Alara moved through the ship's corridors. Her boots made no sound on the polished metal floors. Around her, the crew prepared with quiet focus. Every station was manned, every weapon checked, every system calibrated. There was no fear here, only a heavy, intense calm, the kind that comes when people know exactly why they fight. "This is it," she said softly, almost to herself. "The first strike, the galaxy will see what humans are made of." Her crew did not flinch. They had trained for this moment for years, but the weight of history pressed on them now. Every memory of human suffering, every loss of home and life, flowed through the ship's veins. The Thunder Soul was more than metal and engines. It carried human will, human pain, and human hope. It carried the promise that no invader would ever conquer them. Outside, the Dominion fleet advanced. Their sensors searched the empty darkness, scanning for anything unusual. The Kargath believed they were approaching a defenseless system. They believed they would strike first and victory would be theirs. But they did not see the calm, massive shape emerging from the shadows. They did not know that the humans had been watching them long before they even entered Terran space. Inside the Thunder Soul, energy surged through the ship like a living thing. Lights pulsed with quiet power. Engines hummed with restrained force and weapons glowed faintly, waiting for the command that would release them. The crew was silent, but their hearts beat in unison, carrying the rhythm of something larger than themselves, a shared determination that could not be broken. Captain Alara stepped onto the bridge and gazed at the fleet outside. She felt the weight of every life that had been lost in the past wars, every human who had fought and died for their homes, and every generation that had survived against impossible odds. It all came together now in this one decisive moment. She spoke clearly, her voice calm but firm. Thunder Soul, awaken. Let them see that humans do not break. Let them see that crossing us is madness. The ship responded as if it understood. Its engines roared to life, a deep, resonant sound that shook the hull and seemed to ripple through space itself. Lights flared along its surface, and energy fields shimmered, crackling like captured lightning. For a moment, the Dominion fleet paused, sensing something unnatural, something impossible. Then the Thunder Soul moved. It glided forward, faster than anything the Dominion had ever seen. It did not dodge or hide. It advanced with purpose. Predator moving silently toward its prey. Its massive hull reflected the distant starlight, a shining beacon of human defiance. Inside the ship, the crew held their positions, hearts steady, eyes focused. They were not eager for blood, but they were ready to protect their home with everything they had. The ship itself seemed to hum with their resolve, each pulse of energy a reminder that humans were not to be underestimated. For the first time, the Dominion felt something they had never felt before: unease. Their sensors could detect the ship, but they could not understand it. Its size, its speed, its strange energy signatures, they could not calculate or anticipate it. It was not technology alone that made the Thunder Soul dangerous. It was the humans inside, and the storm of will and determination they carried. As the first strike approached, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The calm before the storm was terrifying. And in that silence, the Thunder Soul warship prepared to remind the universe why humanity had survived every impossible challenge, every cruel attack, and every empire that thought them weak. When the moment came, it would not be mercy or hesitation that defined humans. It would be the unstoppable force of their spirit. And the Dominion would learn too late that crossing humans was not just unwise, it was pure madness. The stars seemed to hold their breath as the Thunder Soul warship emerged fully from the shadows. Its massive hull glowed faintly blue, like lightning captured in metal, and the Dominion fleet froze for a moment, sensing something impossible. Every weapon on their ships hummed with readiness, but no one dared fire first. Something in the silence told them that this was not a battle they could control. Captain Alara stood at the bridge, eyes calm but focused. She did not shout orders. Her presence alone carried authority. Her crew, trained and disciplined, moved like one body, each action precise, each movement purposeful. They did not fight for glory. They fought for survival, for home, for everyone who had ever suffered at the hands of empires that believed humans were weak. The Dominion fleet fired first. Beams of plasma cut across space, exploding against the empty void where they expected to find fragile human ships. But the Thunder Soul did not falter. Its shields absorbed the energy. Its hull shimmered under the pressure, and it moved with a grace no one would have imagined possible for a ship of its size. Each attack from the Dominion seemed to pass through a storm that had been waiting for them. Then came the first strike. Thunder Soul's cannons glowed white-hot, charging with energy that seemed alive. The crew held their positions, hearts steady as the first blast tore through space. A Dominion battleship, one of their largest, was vaporized in an instant. It was gone before the enemy could even react, leaving only floating fragments of its shattered hull behind. Shock rippled through the Dominion ranks. Their commander, General Rakor, froze in disbelief. "Impossible," he shouted, gripping the command console. "This cannot be real. They are stronger than us." But it was real. And it was only the beginning. Another cannon fired. Another battleship disappeared in a brilliant flash of light. The Dominion fleet scrambled, but nothing could match the speed, precision, or power of the Thundersoul. Every maneuver they tried was countered before it even began. They had never seen a ship like this, one that moved with not only technology but the unbreakable will of its people driving it forward. Inside the Thundersoul, the crew remained focused. They were not celebrating. Each victory was a reminder of the stakes, of the lives they were protecting, and of the price humanity had paid to reach this point. They remembered the colonies lost, the friends who had died, and the families torn apart by cruelty and greed. This ship was their answer, their shield, and their sword. General Rakor's panic spread quickly through the Dominion fleet. Orders were shouted, commands were given, and desperate attempts at retreat were made. But the Thundersoul was relentless. It advanced with the calm inevitability of a storm, striking ships before they could escape, tearing formations apart with calculated precision. In the chaos, one Dominion officer tried to speak to his fleet. They are not like us. They do not fight for territory. They do not fight for conquest. They fight as if the universe itself is at stake. The words carried a truth no one could deny. Humans were not predictable, not conventional, and not weak. They were an unstoppable force born from survival, determination, and something deeper than technology alone, a spirit that refused to yield. As the first strike continued, the Dominion realized that they had underestimated humanity in every way. They had expected fear, desperation, and surrender. Instead, they found precision, resolve, and power beyond their imagination. Captain Alara watched the battlefield quietly, her face calm, her eyes steady. She did not gloat. She did not celebrate. Every destroyed enemy ship was a reminder of why. They fought of the cost of human survival and of the promise they had made. No invader would ever conquer their home. The Dominion fleet faltered under the might of the Thundersoul. And in that moment, the first lesson of the war became clear. Crossing humans was not just dangerous, it was madness. The Dominion fleet had never experienced anything like this. Their ships, once symbols of unstoppable power, now drifted in chaos. Explosions scattered fragments of metal and fire across the void, and the surviving crews could barely comprehend what was happening. They had expected humans to fight, but not like this. Not with such precision, such speed, such unrelenting force. General Rakor's face twisted with disbelief and fear. His hands trembled as he gripped the command console. "This cannot be real," he growled. "No species, no single ship, should be capable of this." But the reality was undeniable. The Thundersoul warship moved through their fleet like a storm. Its massive hull shimmered with energy, its weapons fired with devastating accuracy, and its shields absorbed attacks that would have destroyed ordinary ships. Every strike was calculated, every movement deliberate, yet there was something more, the raw force of human determination powering it, guiding it. The Dominion crews began to panic. Their sensors, their strategies, their centuries of military experience could not predict the Thundersoul's movements. Ships collided while trying to evade, commanders shouted impossible orders, and many simply froze, unable to process the overwhelming assault. Madness spread like a virus. One officer screamed across the comms, voice cracking with fear. They are not like us. They do not fight to gain territory. They do not fight for glory. They fight as if the galaxy itself depends on it." The words echoed in the void, true and terrifying. Humans fought not because they wanted to dominate, but because they had no other choice. Every human on board the Thundersoul carried the Weight of their species' history. The deaths of colonies, the loss of loved ones, the cruelty of empires that assumed humans were weak. That weight had been transformed into power, precision, and fury. Inside the Thunder Soul, the crew worked with calm efficiency. Their eyes were steady, their hands precise, their hearts synchronized with the ship's pulse. They did not revel in destruction. They did not enjoy the fear of the Dominion. They were focused on survival, on protecting their people, and on sending a clear message: humanity would not be crossed. Captain Ilara watched the battlefield silently. She remembered the faces of those who had suffered, the colonies that had burned, the children who had cried for homes that no longer existed. Every strike from the Thunder Soul was a promise that no empire, no matter how mighty, could destroy humanity without paying an unimaginable price. The Dominion fleet tried to regroup, forming defensive lines and retreating, but it was too late. The humans anticipated their every move, striking ships before they could escape, breaking formations, and turning order into chaos. Panic spread faster than any weapon. Even the bravest crews began to doubt, trembling as the true nature of the humans became clear. "They are unstoppable," muttered one officer, voice shaking. They are madness." The word seemed inadequate. Madness suggested recklessness. But what the Dominion faced was not recklessness. It was purpose, precision, and an unyielding will. Humans had taken every fear, every sorrow, and every pain of their history, and forged it into a weapon the galaxy had never seen before. By the time the battle ended, only fragments of the Dominion fleet remained. Ships drifted silently, crippled and broken, their crews either dead, captured, or surrendering in disbelief. The Thunder Soul warship stood alone in the void, untouched, a colossal symbol of human resolve. For the first time, the Dominion realized a terrifying truth: humans were not to be underestimated. Their courage, their will, and their determination made them more than just a species. They made them a force the galaxy could not ignore. Crossing humans was no longer a matter of arrogance or strategy. It was madness, pure and undeniable. "Captain." Ilara turned from the observation deck, her face calm, her eyes steady. The crew looked to her for guidance, and she spoke softly, almost as if to herself. "Let them remember this. Let every empire know, humans do not break." And across the silent, starlit void, that truth began to spread, carrying with it the first warning to the galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was unstoppable. After the battle, the void was quiet. The stars seemed to shine brighter, almost as if they were watching the human warship. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifted slowly, glowing faintly, a haunting reminder of the storm that had passed. The Thunder Soul warship floated alone among the debris, its engines quiet now, its hull still shimmering faintly with the energy of the strike. Inside the ship, the crew moved silently. There was no cheering, no celebration. The victory was complete, but it was heavy with meaning. Each person felt the weight of what had just happened. The humans had survived against impossible odds, destroyed a mighty fleet, and proven that their will could not be broken. Yet the cost of achieving this moment pressed down on every soul aboard. Captain Ilara walked slowly through the corridors. She saw crew members cleaning stations, checking systems, or simply sitting in quiet reflection. Some stared at the empty stars through observation windows, eyes filled with memories and thoughts that could not be spoken aloud. Others silently touched small tokens or photographs of loved ones lost long ago. The ship itself seemed alive with the energy of their emotions, vibrating with determination, grief, and the strength of human endurance. Ilara paused at the bridge, looking out at the drifting wreckage. The Dominion ships were gone, but their presence lingered as a reminder of the danger humans had faced and overcome. She remembered the colonies that had burned, the families torn apart, and the countless lives sacrificed to survive. Every pulse of the Thunder Soul carried that memory, transforming loss into resolve. grief into unyielding strength. "This is why we fight," she whispered to herself. Her voice was quiet, but it carried across the bridge. "This is why no one will ever cross us again." The crew understood without needing words. They were not warriors seeking glory. They were guardians, protectors, and witnesses to the power of the human spirit. Every life lost in the past, every hardship endured, had led to this moment. And though they had survived, they knew that survival carried a heavy responsibility. Silence stretched through the ship like a living thing. In that quiet, the crew felt the enormity of what they had done. They had not only destroyed a fleet, they had sent a message to the galaxy. Humans were not weak, humans did not break, and humanity's courage could not be measured by numbers alone. Captain Alara gathered the senior officers in the command room. She spoke slowly, her tone calm yet filled with weight. "We have won today, but the galaxy has seen our strength. We must remain vigilant. We fight not because we seek war, but because we refuse to live under tyranny. Let this victory remind us who we are and why we fight." The officers nodded. They felt pride, yes, but it was tempered with the understanding of what it took to survive. They had faced the Dominion, an empire that had ruled countless systems, and they had prevailed. And yet the silence reminded them that such victories came at a cost. Humanity's survival was hard-won, and it would require unending vigilance, courage, and sacrifice. Outside the ship, the void seemed almost peaceful again, but the calm was deceptive. Across the galaxy, those who had witnessed or intercepted the battle's events trembled. Entire empires began to rethink their assumptions about humans. The whispers that had once described them as weak and insignificant now carried a new word: unstoppable. Inside the Thunder Soul, the crew felt the quiet weight of their responsibility. They had shown the universe what humans could do, but they also knew that the war was far from over. Every heartbeat on the ship carried resolve, every glance carried memory, and every breath carried the promise that humanity would never be conquered. Captain Alara stood at the observation window one last time before returning to the bridge. She whispered almost to the stars themselves, "We do not seek war, but we will endure. We do not seek destruction, but we will protect. And we do not break." And in that silence, the galaxy began to understand. Crossing humanity was no longer just a mistake, it was madness. The void was quiet, almost reverent. The Dominion fleet had been shattered, their survivors drifting helplessly in the cold blackness of space. The Thundersoul warship floated alone among the wreckage, its massive hull still glowing faintly blue. The storm it had unleashed had passed, but its message lingered, a warning written in fire, energy, and human will. Inside the ship, the crew moved slowly, their faces calm but solemn. There were no cheers, no laughter. Victory had been won, but it carried a weight heavier than any weapon. Every soul aboard remembered the colonies that had burned, the friends and families lost to cruelty and conquest, and the sacrifices that had led to this moment. They understood that the Thunder Soul was more than a ship. It was a promise, symbol of human strength, endurance, and unbreakable spirit. Captain Alara stood on the bridge, gazing out at the drifting remnants of the Dominion fleet. She thought of the countless humans who had suffered at the hands of empires far stronger than themselves, and of the generations who had survived against impossible odds. Her eyes, steady and calm, reflected both sorrow and determination. She understood the power they wielded, but also the responsibility it carried. "This is our message," she said softly, her voice echoing through the bridge. "Not just to the Dominion, but to every empire, every fleet, every being who might dare to challenge us. We do not seek war, but if war is brought to us, we will answer, and our answer will be absolute." The communications officer activated the long-range transmitter. The Thunder Soul sent a single, clear message across the galaxy. It was not loud, not threatening in tone, but the words carried the weight of human history, human resolve, and the promise of consequences for those who underestimated them. This was your warning. We did not want this war. But if you bring it to us, know that we will end it. We are human. We do not break. The message echoed across systems, reaching every corner of the galaxy. Across distant stars, commanders paused, hearing it, and realizing for the first time the truth of what humanity had become. Humans were not just another species. They were survivors, warriors, and protectors of everything they held dear. And their strength was not measured by fleets or weapons alone. It was measured by the unyielding force of their spirit. On board the Thunder Soul, the crew listened to the transmission being sent. Their faces were calm, but their hearts were full of emotion. Relief, sorrow, pride, and determination mingled in quiet harmony. They had fought not for power, not for revenge, but for survival. And they had proven that humanity, when pushed to the edge, could unleash a force no empire could ignore. Captain Ilara turned from the observation window, her eyes meeting those of her crew. "Remember this day," she said quietly. "Remember the cost, the victory, and the promise we carry. Humanity will endure. Humanity will protect what is ours, and humanity will never break." The crew nodded, understanding the weight of their captain's words. They had seen the Dominion's arrogance and cruelty firsthand. They had faced what seemed impossible and emerged victorious. And now, with the galaxy aware of their power, humanity had not only survived, they had sent a warning strong enough to echo for generations. As the Thunder Soul warship drifted through the starlit void, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Every empire, every fleet, every distant colony could sense the change. A new force had risen among the stars, a species that would not be underestimated, a people who would fight with everything they had, and a storm that no one could control. From that day forward, the name Thunder Soul was remembered across the galaxy. It was not just a warship. It was a symbol, a promise, and a warning. Humans were not weak. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not break. And any who dared to cross them would learn too late that such arrogance was pure madness.